great capital. Now, leading scientists at the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists have given their backing to rolling out the 99% accurate test for Down and other genetic conditions on the NHS. The simple blood test, currently only available in private clinics, could be made available on the NHS. It could reduce the number of women needing the invasive testing, which can in itself cause miscarriage. Professor Peter Soothill is co-author of the paper, making the recommendation for the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and consultant in fetal medicine at the University Hospital in Bristol NHS Foundation Trust. I should have taken a deeper breath there. Good evening to you, Professor.
Good evening.
What kind of difference would this make to people's lives?
Well, the reason why the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists produced the report today is because currently the ways of diagnosing chromosome problems is via needle tests, invasive procedures such as amniocentesis or chorionic villus sampling, which involves passing a needle through the pregnant woman's abdomen. And this test it uses a relatively new technology where you can find the unborn baby's DNA in the ordinary blood of pregnant women. So by taking a simple blood sample from about 10 weeks of pregnancy, it's possible to determine with a great increase in the accuracy from previous tests whether a pregnancy is affected by one of those conditions or not.
Well, like many things, due to be made available on the NHS, a number of critics have come forward and said, goodness gracious me, this is going to cost an absolute fortune. What's your response to that?
Well, the technology behind the test is called sequencing, DNA sequencing, and it is really remarkable that only 3 or 4 years ago the price of that was enormous, and the price is now dropping extremely fast. We hope that the test will not be much more expensive than the existing screening tests, which involve scans and a blood test. Because it would be so much more accurate, the costs involved in the needle tests and the laboratory work from those samples may also produce a saving. So it will cost money, but we are hopeful that the benefits may make that cost worthwhile.
Professor, thank you so much for talking to us tonight. With me in studio, Steve Palmer, is chair of the North London Group, somebody who used to work here at BBC London and somebody with whom I have worked on this very subject. Good evening to you. It's lovely to see you again.
It's really nice to see you again, Eddie.
And just to explain to everybody how we came to be working together on this subject.
Well, I think this story probably came up many, many years ago. And we were speaking probably on this very same story about testing for Down syndrome when my son Stan, who's now 12, was a baby, and actually he was born when I worked here. When I worked here at BBC London, he was born when I worked here. So I've quite a few emotions.
Yeah, and I mean,
tonight,
one of it's the very first emotion I have in terms of just being overcome by a story, which is, and I hope you don't mind me saying so, when we did our research and we discovered that more couples were choosing to abort when they found out that they had a Down syndrome child than were actually having the baby. And for me, that was a staggering statistic. But you're the parent of a boy. I've got the picture here. Look, fantastic, 12 years old. You could tell us what it's really like. I mean, we're going to talk about this procedure as well.
What's it like? Well, on Saturday we were in Pizza Express and he picked up that, the stainless steel mug you get to froth coffee with a cappuccino, and threw it on the floor and it scolded me. I was quite cross with him. At times, that's what my life's like. But at other times, yesterday I was in his school helping his teacher and learning support assistant to get his hearing aids right, so that the improvements that he's making in his life are there all the time. So what's life like? It's up and down. There is challenges, but he's supported and he's part of a wider family with a brother, with cousins, with parents, with grandparents that love him. So that's what life's like with him.
This procedure, and certainly, my wife won't thank people for saying this, but he's over 40, and when you're over 40 and you just had a baby, there are all sorts of things you go, and this test, if you are inclined to take it, it is very invasive at the minute. What kind of difference do you think this new procedure would make?
I don't have a problem with the new procedure or the new report, although I do seem to be asked onto radio shows, etc., quite often with these different reports. This one's by Great Ormond Street. They happen to save Stan's life, so I have no problem with that at all. In a way, I have a bit of a problem with the reporting. I've got something from the Telegraph here, and it doesn't mention anything for what it's like. Imagine if you were a new couple, and here we are on the 5th of March 2014, and you're being told that maybe in a few years' time. Well, you've just had the diagnosis, or you've given birth to a child with Down syndrome. Then what? Well, the good news is there's so much support now through the Down Syndrome Association. They're very approachable, through local groups like the one we run, and through social media, for instance. There's just 3 things, and there's so much that you can learn, so many resources to help you through the sort of journey we've had. There's now no excuse not to access them, and it's a shame that isn't sometimes mentioned in a cold medical report like this.
Yeah, I mean, when you do reports, it is quite difficult. Sometimes you get into the heart of the story. I mean, we've just been doing a story about whether or not the Sun should be featuring a breast cancer campaign, and you know, when you're discussing it, you always have to remember, actually, if you can help the people who are going through it, you want to do it. Is there a one-stop shop if somebody gets a diagnosis that they are likely to have it, or the procedure, they're worried about how invasive it might be and what it might bring on? Is there a place that you would suggest that people went?
I think it's different for different people. Somebody I know goes for a coffee with a friend every week. I look on the Future of Downs on Facebook every day. You know, there's lots of different things, but the Down Syndrome Association is very good. And just very quickly, they have something called the Start It Right, Tell It Right campaign, which trains consultants and midwives and other medical staff. Now, if this test is going to be rolled out, the Down Syndrome Association today, I believe, are saying, well, let's factor in a cost to have that course taught to medical professionals. So when a child is born or is about to be born in a hospital with Down syndrome, they know exactly what to do.
Yeah, we'll come in and we'll talk about this subject at greater length another time. It's great to see you again, Steve Palmer. Thanks you so much for coming in. BBC London 94.9. Let's find out how it's going on those roads.